Hey guys, my name is Evan. This is Milkshakes. Thanks for tuning in to this quarantine exclusive. I'm going to show you a couple things on guitar maintenance. We will be covering basic setup techniques for Stratocaster, Les Paul, and acoustic guitars. We will not be covering Floyd Rose setup specifics or classical/nylon restrings. But before we begin, I'd like you to imagine a horse. Now imagine that horse from the top down. First you hit the neck, then you hit the saddle, and then you hit the nut. And if you want to take this metaphor one step further, lastly, you hit the toes, or the intonation. And that, folks, is the order of operations for a guitar setup. Here's what you'll need to get started. A ruler, screwdriver for the electric guitar, pencil for the acoustic, properly sized Allen keys or nut driver, tuner, extra strings, and a string winder. Step 1, the neck. Let's get started. You want to make sure that the neck is straight-ish but not dead straight. So the way I do that is I put my capo here at the 1st fret, or if you don't have a capo, you can just use your finger. And then around the 15th fret or so, put your finger over here. And you want to make sure that there's some clearance here in the middle. You want the string to not be touching the fret. You want there to be a gap about the size of a business card or a credit card or somewhere around there. The reason for this clearance is to give the strings room for their full circle of vibration. If your neck isn't straightish, if the strings are too high or too low, you want to get your Allen key, throw it in there, and turn it righty-tighty to bend the neck backwards and bring the action closer, or lefty-loosey to bring the neck forwards and raise your action. What you're adjusting with your Allen key is called the truss rod, and it's a metal rod that goes through the entire length of the neck. Action is just another way to say the distance between the strings and the fretboard. Some Les Paul style guitars use a nut driver rather than an Allen key to adjust their truss rod, and some acoustic guitars have truss rod access through the sound hole. Alright, let's move on to step 2, the saddles. This is the acoustic guitar saddle. So to check the saddle height, what you want to do, again, you want to put a capo here at the 1st fret. But this time, you actually want to measure the 12th fret. You want to measure the distance between the top of the fret and the bottom of the string. On the bass side, I like there to be about 1/16 of an inch of clearance, and on the treble side, I like there to be about 3/64 of an inch. The lower your action is, the more comfortable your guitar will be to play, but by lowering your action, you increase the risk of introducing unwanted fret buzz. Once the strings are off, the saddle pops right out. Now we can make adjustments to the saddle to get the string height or action to the proper height. So let's say your action's too high. What you want to do is take note of how much you need to lower your action and make markings on your saddle that are double that measurement. For example, let's say on the bass side, your action at the 12th fret is a 32nd of an inch too high, and on the treble side, it's a 64th of an inch too high. So what you want to do is double that. Make a marking on the bass side of your saddle at 2/32 of an inch, and make a marking on the treble side at 2/64 of an inch. You'll have to sand off the excess, so draw a line to make things easier for yourself. At this point, you want to take your saddle to a belt sander, or just sand it by hand up to the line. If your action is too low, you'll have to throw a shim under the saddle. Your shim can be made out of wood, plastic, or even a business card. Pop that back in the bridge, and then restring it. Now let's talk about adjusting the bridge on your Stratocaster. Some people, myself included, like the bridge to be flush with the body. It increases tuning stability, but removes the ability to bend up with the whammy bar. The other option is to have the bridge floating a bit. That way you can bend back with the whammy bar, but you do lose a little bit of tuning stability. So on the back side here, if you wanted to pull your bridge back and make it flush with the body, you just have to tighten these screws. If you want it to be floating a little bit, you have to loosen the screws. I'll leave mine where they're at because I like my bridge to be flush with the body. You can add or remove springs to increase or decrease the tension on your whammy bar. Once you get your bridge adjusted, again, we want the capo here at the 1st fret, and we want to make some measurements here at the 12th fret. You could be exact with your measurements and adjust the saddles accordingly, or with electric guitars, it's a lot easier to just guess and check. With the properly sized Allen key, tighten these set screws to raise the saddle or loosen them to lower it. For Les Paul style tunematic bridges, just tighten these thumb screws to lower the bridge or loosen them to raise it. You want the tailpiece to be as low as possible without the string touching the back of the bridge. Step 3, the nut. More often than not, you don't need to adjust the nut. But to check it anyways, put a capo here at the 3rd fret, and I just want to make sure that there's clearance between the 1st fret and the string. You want the clearance to be very minimal so that when you hit the string, it makes a little clinky sound.
Would you hate me
if your nut slot is too high, you'll have to file it down with a properly gauged nut file. These can be kind of pricey. If your nut slot is too low, you'll have to fill it with super glue and some sort of dust or powder or cotton or something like that. Step 4, intonation. Intonation refers to your instrument being in tune throughout the entirety of the fretboard. Just because your instrument's in tune in the open position does not mean that it's in tune higher up the neck. Here's how we check the intonation and make adjustments to it. When working on intonation, it's important that your guitar's in the playing position so there's no unnecessary stress on the neck. I'm plugged into my strobe tuner here, and I'm about to check my intonation where it's at right now. The way I do that is I hit the open note, make sure it's perfectly in tune. Sounds about right. And then at the 12th fret here, on the same string, make sure that's in tune. And it's actually not, it's coming out a little bit flat. So when it comes out flat, you want to shorten the string length by moving this saddle forward. And the way I do that is just by loosening this screw. If the 12th fret came out sharp, then you'd want to lengthen the string by tightening this screw. Tunematic bridges work the same way, and you're kind of stuck with your intonation on an acoustic guitar. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something useful. What else do I say? That's it.